right? But it tells us to run away from lust. Why does it tell us to run away from lust? Because although lust is so appealing and it can grab us, we have to run away from it because it's so strong, we don't know what to do with it. This is why right now, some of us cannot escape those toxic relationships because it's so sex-centered, you think it's love, but it's not. And so now, when you look at that relationship and you really look at it from a third-person point of view, you realize, wow, there is, or when you break up with someone, check this out. When you break up with someone, a couple weeks after, you reflect on that relationship and you think, wow, there is all attachment there, but no love. Wow. You have to start thinking about that. Why is there so much attachment there, but no love? It's because you don't. Hey guys, I want to talk about the importance of recognizing lust versus love, right? As we grow, as people, as husbands, as wives, as children, we have to learn and understand what is love and what is lust, right? And sometimes we're so desperate for love that even lust is appealing to us. Sometimes we're so desperate to be loved that we want to go out and have sex and send our nudes and divulge in all these different topics that are sexual, but that's not really what love actually is. And it's so frustrating to talk about this because so many people think love is explicitly putting yourself out there in a sexual way. But in reality, love isn't the ability to have a feeling, but it's your choice of action. And let me break down those two things, right? With lust, we constantly think we have to go out and have sex, to flirt, to showing ourselves in a provocative way is a good thing. It's not at all, right? But when we look at love, especially from a biblical perspective, we learn that love is patient, love is kind, love keeps no records of wrongdoings, and love does not boast. And so if we look at all these things and we compare it to our relationships that are filled with lust, we then ask ourselves, are we actually in a loving relationship? Let me go even further, right? In the book of Ephesians, it tells husbands and wives how to love each other. But most importantly, what does it tell the husband? It tells the husbands to love as Christ loved the church. And as I was talking to my girlfriend about this, I broke it down to her in one of the most explicitly mind-blowing phrases ever. I asked her, so what did Christ do for the church? And she responded, he died for them. He died for us. I said, exactly. Christ loved the church so much that he died for us. And so love isn't that lust, that feeling you get in the middle of the night. And it might seem like love because you're yearning for that. But when you wake up, you feel disgusted. 10 minutes later, you feel disgusted. Why does love feel so disgusting on you? It shouldn't. But when we look at the Bible and we look in the book of Ephesians, it shows us that love is sacrificial. In 1 John chapter 3, verse 16, it says, this is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ died for our brothers and sisters. We ought to do the same. And so wait. Now you have to question your line of thinking. What does the world say about love? And then what does God say about love? He also says in 1 John 4, there's no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and anyone who fears has not been perfected in love. And so we can learn that love is strength. Love can cast out fear. Love casts out punishment. Love is sacrificial. Never in the Bible does it explicitly talk about, or nowhere in the doctrine does it talk about love being that horny feeling that you get. It never talks about that, right? But it tells us to run away from lust. Why does it tell us to run away from lust? Because although lust is so appealing and it can grab us, we have to run away from it because it's so strong, we don't know what to do with it. This is why right now, some of us cannot escape those toxic relationships because it's so sex-centered, you think it's love, but it's not. And so now, when you look at that relationship and you really look at it from a third-person point of view, you realize, wow, there is, or when you break up with someone, check this out. When you break up with someone, a couple weeks after, you reflect on that relationship and you think, wow, there is all attachment there, but no love. Wow. You have to start thinking about that. Why is there so much attachment there, but no love? is because you don't see love as an extension of who you are. You see love as a deposit of your body. And so the best way you can show love is by giving up your own body, not in a Christ-like way, but giving up your own body sexually. You have to be careful who you give your body to, right? And now you're just here giving your bodies, you're giving pieces of yourself to different people. Now you're losing who you are. So now when you get into an actual relationship, you get married, all these different people have a piece of you, and you still don't know what love is. That's why when we want to look at love and understand love, we have to go to the Church of Christ. We have to understand, wow, this is what love actually is, that Jesus Christ died for us. Love is sacrificial. Love is giving up yourself. Christ gave up himself. When Christ was in the garden praying, he said, Lord, let not my will be done, but your will. He also said, Lord, please take this cup of suffering away from me. He was literally sweating blood, but he loved us so much. He went through that turmoil, that sacrifice, that pain, that punishment, all because he loved us. And we've taken love and we destroyed it. We've crumbled it away. And so now I want you to look at your relationship. I'm not telling you to go break up with someone just because you feel convicted by this video, but I want you to go look at your relationship, look at your friendship, and then look at the relationship with God. Does your relationship with God, Jesus Christ, the triune God, does that show love? Then look at your relationship with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your spouse, and ask yourself, is that love? And then look at the relationship between your friends and ask yourself, is that love? Is your heart so like just revolved around love that you display it in every one of your relationships? Or do you only know what lust is? Do you only chase after the things that you desire so deep down that you can't even understand what it is to give up yourself for the goodness of God and to give up yourself for other people? Yeah, so I wanted to become more relatable, right? Especially to my viewers, to the people I talk to. And one of the topics I really want to talk about is the topic of bullying. Now, I never got it, but a lot of people in middle school have been bullied, right? Like almost everyone I've talked to has either been bullied, has done the bullying, or has been a victim of bullying on whatever side it is, right? And it's like, why are you talking about this video, Unc? This has happened like years ago. I wanted to talk about the aspects of bullying and what it really does to someone, right? Now, when I was bullied, I wasn't even bullied for my looks, more of what I wore, how I acted, and my voice, right? These are things that are completely detached from my nature, right? It's not my personality. It's not really my appearance. It's not really like who I am actually. It's more of my surface level things, right? And what I really mean by that is people will constantly judge you for who you are without getting to know and understand who you actually are, right? And as I've been bullied, right, it's made me feel like utter garbage, right? Like being bullied really puts you in a place where you feel like you are worthless. And it sounds kind of like cliche or almost like exaggerated, but that is literally the point. Like times when I was bullied, I felt literally so miserable because it's like so many people notice this trait about me that I never noticed about myself. And it creates like a wall. It creates a wall in front of you of doubt that all you can do is doubt who you are and what anybody else tells you. And so anytime someone ever complimented me or told me I looked good or told me they liked my personality or who I was as a person, I was very skeptical because I was like, how can you like this about me? Yet so many other people are making fun of this exact quality. And although we are talking about bullying, I want to get to the point where we can know our identity, right? If you know what your identity is in and who you are as a person, you will not waver, right? If you have your foundation attached on a rock, you cannot be pushed back and forth based on what other people say, but you are rock solid in your faith, your beliefs, who you are as a person, and what you do. And I didn't have that. And majority of people in middle school, 95% people in middle school don't have that either. They don't think deeper than the surface level. They don't think, oh, how can I establish my personality? How can I establish my actions want a cornerstone of rock to where if other people tell me something different, it doesn't matter. We don't have that anymore, right? We've never had that to begin with. That's why bullying is so effective, because it's almost like you're breaking someone down, then you're building them up again, but not in a good way. So as you're breaking someone down, you're getting rid of everything that they thought that they once were. They thought they were beautiful, kind, funny, unique, exotic. And now you're building them up again in a very negative way to where they think they're worthless, nobody cares about them, they're hideous, all of these things. And it's a very detrimental thing. And if you are experiencing these kind of things, let's not talk about middle school anymore. But if you were experiencing these kind of things, whether you're in high school, college, elementary school, you need to understand that you are being bullied, right? You need to understand that you are being bullied and that you need to escape and run away from that friendship. Because what is genuinely the point of bullying? It's only to put other people down. And so if you're in a constant environment, in a constant community of being put down, you need to leave that environment, because it's building you up into someone that you do not need to be, right? And I wouldn't say that I was bullied, but more so as I got older, I was around a community that wasn't really effective for me, right? This community revolved around the breaking down of people, right? We constantly roast each other. And at times, it's kind of funny, right? At times we're laughing with each other, like, this, and that. But like on a deeper level besides the surface, I would notice these changes in my friends and these changes in myself of insecurities and resentment, because every joke has a little bit of truth to it. And so as we hear these jokes, as we're being joked around with, all it's doing is kind of revealing the truth of what people perceive us as. And that's really, really detrimental. And that can cause huge blocks of resentment in people. And so if you're in that community, if you're in that environment, you need to leave it, or something needs to change. Because you should not be corrupted. Like it tells us in the Bible, 1 Corinthians 15:33, do not be corrupted. Bad company disrupts good morals. And so there it goes back to the point we talked about, where we said that being around that community breaks you down and then builds you up, right? It destroys and breaks down your morals, your ideals, and builds you up into someone that you're not. And so I want you to ask yourself, as you're watching this video, who is your community? Are you being bullied? And what can you do to fix those things? All right. We never really want to use bullying as that word, because it's like an icky word, like, oh my gosh, you're 22 and you get bullied. Bullying doesn't have to just do with being picked on. It can also do with people projecting their feelings onto you, right? So it's okay to say you're being bullied, because in a way, the only thing that's doing for you is it's growing you, right? It's okay to say that these people in your life, although you're 24, 25, are bullying you, right? That's common, that's normal, that's fine to say. Because the only way that you can actually break from that cycle is to admit that you're there in the first place. So if these people are dragging you down, leave their company, run away from them, and find people who actually care about you, who want you to grow, and who love you for you. Now, a question I've been asked by so many people is, should I go to college? Now, if you're a parent watching this for whatever reason, you would probably say yes, your child, your son, your daughter should go to college. But ultimately, it all depends on your position in life and your perspective. Now, for me, I didn't want to go to college, if I'm being honest. Who wants to go to college? Let's be honest. Who wants to go to college, to school for another 4 years, work to get a degree, and then enter the workforce? Who wants to do that? Who wants to waste their life away for 4 extra years, studying, quote unquote, and enjoying the quote unquote party life, right? Who wants that? Now, there might be many people who want the party life, but I don't want that. I kind of just want to do my own thing. Now, when I was in high school, looking to college, I never thought that I would have to work for the rest of my life, right? And that's inevitable. We're all going to have to work. And right now, I'm at the point of deciding, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life, right? Is this something I could see myself doing day after day after day, right? Because a job, college, school is not separate, but it's an extension of who we are, right? Because we are consumed by school, by projects, by work, by different tasks for hours upon hours. If you're spending your time at a college you don't like, or in a job that you don't really want to be, or the people at your job aren't the kind of people that you want to work with, then that's a very bad thing. You're not going to enjoy working. And that's a very, very sad thing and a very sad expectation that most people don't talk about, is that you go to college, a college that you probably don't even like, but you have to go there for financial reasons. You study for 4 years, you build up anxiety and resentment for professors. You have that anxiety because if you don't pass this class, you're not going to be able to become a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer. And then after that, you go into the workforce and you find a job, and it's with people you don't even like. Or it might not even be people that you don't even like, but people who don't share the same qualities or similarities as you. And so right there, you immediately start to hate them. And so let's go back to the question of, should I go to college? Unless you know what you want to do, unless you know what you're going to do when you get to college, please don't go. I have so many friends who have gone to college and they have dropped out first year, first semester. They literally are $20,000 in debt. How are you already in debt and you haven't even taken a hard class yet? That's my question. I mean, of course, people are going to sit there and be like, okay, but like, we have to take out debt for our classes. You don't think of it that way. You have different plans. Down the road, you realize this isn't for you. Exactly. Ultimately, you should know and get into that process by the time you're a senior, junior in high school. Do you want to go to college? And don't blame yourself and don't go so hard on yourself that you dropped out or you don't know what you want to do. It's not your fault, it's the school's fault. The school, whatever high school you're at, should let you know and build you up to the point that when you go to college or when you're approaching college, you know what you want to do. And that's just not what it is right now. And so if you really want to go to college, if you are really trying to figure out what you want to do once you graduate high school, first, ask yourself, do you have a concrete idea of what you want to do? Is your passion, your ideals, your goals built around the fundamentals of college? If that is, you need to go. If that is not, you do not need to go. Please do not go into college without a plan. You will be miserable. I know so many people who've dropped out of college who are literally miserable and in debt, and now are trying to scrabble around, trying to find out what they want to do with their lives. Start that brand. Start your farm. Become an influencer. Become a painter. Start now, so that by the time you are deciding if you want to go to college or not, you don't have to figure that out like the rest of us. I'm putting you guys on game right now. Please do not go to college unless you know what you want to do. Unless you are adamant and you love school, or you know you have that factor, that perseverance that can push you, please don't go to college. Me and myself, I don't even want to be in college right now, but I have so much perseverance and like determination that I can get through this. I can make all A's, glory to God. I can make all A's without having to worry about dropping out, because that's just the kind of person I am. I don't have to worry about not wanting to study, because if I'm going to study, I'm going to get this done. I promise I'm going to get this done. I don't care what class it is. I'm going to get this done. But if you can look 1 year or 2 years into the future and ask yourself, do I want to wake up for a 9:25 a.m. class every day? If that's not you, please don't go to college. Third, you shouldn't want to go to college for college experiences. One of my supporters texted me and they told me that they can't wait to go to college because they're going to party all the time. And I was like, dude, like why do you want to go to an institution to party for 4 years? I never understood why people do that. You're telling me, besides all the partying factors of having sex, because that's what you go, if you really want to party, you want to have sex and drink, get drunk. That's all you want to do. Because why else would you want to go to a party? Unless it's to party with your friends, like unless you are genuinely enjoying yourself, you are not going to college to party, right? Like, unless you are like an adamant person, unless you are a true person who is like stays to themselves, you can party, like you can enjoy that time. You can have fun with your friends. You can go out to parties and be respectful. But 95% of the time, the people that are wanting to go to parties or seek out institutions to go to parties are literally just trying to bang someone. That's all it is. That's all it ever is, right? And so my second and last point is don't go to college for the experience, right? You want an experience so bad, but you don't ever understand how that can make you and someone else feel, right? What I mean by that is that experience that you want so bad and so desperately is only going to be detrimental to your success, right? You're so focused on the shoreline that you can't even look to the ocean. You're so focused on these small little goals that don't benefit you at all that you can't look to the broad aspects of life. How narrow-minded can you be to have an opportunity to have an education, to have an opportunity to not waste tens of thousands of dollars, and the only thing you can think about is, I want to go to college to party, or I'm going to college because my parents are making it, right? Those are two huge, prideful and arrogant things to do. Now, the second part, which I have fallen victim to, which is kind of a prideful thing, is only going to college for your parents, is kind of a negative connotation, right? We should really be able to sit down and talk to our parents and tell them, I don't know if this college is for me, right? And sometimes you could go to college and you could be like, this is not for me. And then midway through, you could like it. That's how it was for me. I didn't like it at first, but midway through, finding the right people, being around the right people, finding Christ, it was the best decision of my life. If I didn't go to college, I don't think I would have ever known who Christ was. I mean, of course I would. Of course I would, because Christ is omniscient. I would have obviously found Christ. But the way God sought me out in this dorm room is a completely life-changing aspect, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And so my ultimate goal and the last true point I want to talk about is sometimes going to college isn't a bad thing. I've been around so many good people, have experienced so many different things, found so many different opportunities because I was forced to go to college. And so whether you want to go to college or whether you don't, figure that out right now. As you're watching this video, I know some of my supporters are young, in college, about to finish college. Figure out, is this what you want to do, right? Still in college, you have to graduate college just because you've been here for so long. Ask yourself, is the job that you're going to obtain in the workforce, is that a job that you will enjoy for the rest of your life? Or is that just an extension to your miserable life? Ask yourself that question. Because if it's just an extension to your miserable life, you have gained nothing for the 4 years you've been there. So you're telling me you've gone to school for 4 years, and now you're going to work for the rest of your life doing something you don't want to do. Are you going to decide what you want to do now, or are you going to suffer for the rest of your life?
I think one of the most important things that I've learned while being in a healthy relationship is that people change, right? For the longest time, I've had this mindset that if I change so much, me and my girlfriend can't be together. Me and my fiance can't be together, right? Because if I'm changing at such a rapid rate and she's changing at such a slow pace, how are we ever going to keep up, right? When me and my girlfriend first started dating, a month into our relationship, I came to Christ. And this was such a radical change in my life. Like, I fully started pursuing Christ. I wanted to learn as much as possible. I wanted to debate people. I wanted to be so actively on fire for God. I wanted to show off my intelligence, my faith, my love for God in any way possible. And while doing that, as I was growing so much in Christ, I realized that my girlfriend was having somewhat of a slower growth, right? And through this, in analyzing this, I thought to myself, okay, if I'm growing at such a rapid rate and she's growing at such a slower rate, are we meant to be together, right? Am I supposed to be with my girlfriend because I am changing so much and she's changing so little, right? And the reason why I want to talk about this is because so many young men have this kind of turmoil in their day-to-day lives. They think, okay, because I've changed so much and my friends aren't changing, does that mean I need to go find new people? Does that mean I need to go and be? And I think one of the most important things you have to realize in a relationship, whether that's with friends, family, or a woman or a man, is that patience and change coexist, right? You were not the same person you were yesterday. You are constantly changing and evolving, right? If you do not give someone the opportunity to change and grow, will they ever do it? If you do sunlight, will it ever bloom, right? And so if you're constantly running away from people and finding new people because you change so often, where will you ever find your concrete people? Where where will you ever find the people that you are meant to be with, right? Because you can find new people based off of every significant and every little moment in your life. And that's a very toxic thing to do, right? And I almost fell victim to this. I thought, okay, because I changed so much and my girlfriend is barely changing, are we meant to be together, right? And throughout our relationship, I saw her grow so much. She started to change so much coming to Christ, right? And that was because I was able to be a light for her. God allowed me to be a light for her. And because of that, all glory to God, she was able to slowly change. She was able to slowly start realizing right from wrong and the morality and who God actually is, right? And that's such a beautiful thing. But would that have me and would I have missed out on a completely perfect girl if I found someone else just because I was changing, right? We think, okay, because I'm a completely different person than I was yesterday, I'm so much better than everyone else. That's not true. Because you have those addictions, because you have those inner turmoils, and all of a sudden God frees you from them, that doesn't mean you get to move on and think you're better than other people. I think what we should do is when we change with the person that we started with, we should be a light for them so that we can see change in them as well. We should never abandon someone just because we think that we're better than them or because we have changed much more than they have, right? But now I'm not saying don't move on from the people of the past. If you have changed day by day and it's been months, weeks, years, and that person has not changed, then it's important to cut people off. Because it tells us in 1 Corinthians that bad company disrupts good morals. And so you can constantly be a light for people who don't change, but do it from a distance. Don't actively involve yourself around people who are going to bring you down if you are not spiritually strong enough. Do not be around people who are going to drag you back into your old lifestyle if you're not strong enough to withstand that pressure, right? Because what kind of person is released from prison and yet walks right back in behind the bars? Nobody wants to do that. Because once you're free from what you've been imprisoned in, you never want to go back to those things. And so I completely understand if you do not want to go back to those people that you broke free from, but don't forget to also be a light. Don't forget to have patience with people. Because just like you and me, we change. We change every single day, right? We cannot stop ourselves from changing. We cannot stop ourselves from growth. Just because we grow faster or slower than other people, that doesn't make us better or worse. It just simply means that God has different plans for us and is using us in different ways. It means that we've experienced some things that other people didn't have the chance to experience, and now we can be that light, right? In the book of Matthew, on the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus talks about being the light and the salt of the earth. Now, what good is salt if it loses its flavor? It's not good at all, because salt is used to preserve meat. It's used for flavor. It's used as a reagent that allows us to actually preserve and keep the things that we have. And if salt no longer has any use, if salt no longer can be used as it's meant to be, then what good is it? It's thrown out. It's gone, right? So what good are we if God calls us to spread the gospel? What good are we if we are called to be a change in people's lives and we can't even do that? We're no better than if that's the case. And so overall, I really want to tell you and I really want to emphasize the point that yes, people change. Yes, be around and help other people change. But no, don't extract yourself from other people just because you've changed, but be a light. Give yourself some time, pray on it. And if God calls you to leave, then you leave. But don't ever think you're better than other people because you've changed. Because day by day, we are all changing. It tells us In Philippians, he who began a good work in you will bring it to the day of completion when Jesus Christ returns. Now, being confident in yourself is key, right? And when people think of confidence, they think of pride. And pride and confidence are not the same thing. So let me break it down. First of all, pride is being completely arrogant and not admitting your faults. You think you're right 100% of the time, and you cannot take criticism or advice from anyone, right? It says pride comes before a hefty fall. So, right? So we know that pride is very dangerous. Even in biblical times, even in the biblical aspect, the first sin committed was pride. And Satan fell from heaven like lightning. We know that pride is extremely dangerous, right? That's what we're not going to do. We're not going to surround our lives with pride. We're not going to let our lives be built up on pride. We are not going to think we're right 100% of the times. Because thinking like that only leads to destruction. If you can never accept being wrong, how can you ever grow, right? That's why it's important to have confidence. Confidence is having trust and ability in the things that you can do, but not just pushing away that criticism, not pushing away that sort of sheet that allows you to understand and look at, oh, okay, I did this wrong, I did this wrong, I did this wrong, right? Kind of like that reporter's list. Do not push that away. That is extremely important, right? And that's why confidence and pride get mixed up all the time, because people think that pride is confidence because you can trust and you can be confident in things that you do. But that's not the same thing at all, right? With confidence comes humility, right? It comes complete humility, being able to admit when you're wrong, but being able to strike when the opportunity is present. That is a huge thing, and people don't understand that. When you are confident in something, you trust your ability to get something done. You know that whatever's going on, although you may be wrong, you're still going to give complete and maximum effort. And that is an important thing to have, right? So many people base their entire lives off of pride because they think they can do everything right. And all of a sudden, with pride comes resentment, frustration. And so now you think, oh, if I can't do this, then I'm worthless. If I can't do this, where the issue of pride comes in. Because when you're so prideful in something, it's your all or nothing, right? So if you fail, what do you have left? Like, for example, right? I have a friend whose pride was basketball. He loved playing basketball. He's always into basketball. But when he had an injury, he couldn't play basketball anymore. And so now he had a midlife crisis. He had an identity crisis because, wow, he put his entire pride, his entire life into basketball. And now that it's all over, what can he do, right? He banked his entire life on basketball. He was so prideful that he couldn't see the other opportunities and the other choices in life that once this situation hit, he was dumbfounded, right? And I'm not saying, okay, just don't put your all into everything. I'm not saying, okay, don't go all in everything that you love and do. No, this situation was more of, okay, I don't have a backup plan, right? I don't know what else I'm going to do. I'm so good at basketball. I'm better than everyone else. I'm going to make it to the NBA. I'm going to be the best player in the world, right? And he's saying all of these things, but he's not taking in the criticism, right? I mean, you can go and trick yourself all day long. You can trick your friends all day long, but you can't trick the people that watch you. There's so many people out there who observe you and watch you and see your growth, and you can't lie to them, right? And is that pride really stops you from growing. It destroys and stunts your growth. And so now when you think that you're actually advancing in life, when you're actually growing in life, it's the complete opposite. That's why confidence is so much more important, right? When you're confident in something, you know that it is capable. You know that it will. But you know that there are also many faults that can occur as well, right? So let's say you're confident in your test. You're confident in your ability to do good. But you know that some things could happen along the line to where now you feel uneasy. And that sense of feeling is very important because it allows you to know that you're going to make mistakes and recover from those mistakes. And that's a very beautiful thing. And so overall, get rid of your pride. Get rid of that destruction, that mindset where you think you're better than everyone else. You can't learn. and become confident in who you are. Become confident in your skill set, become confident in growing, and you'll see so many more changes. So many more.
I'm gonna start a new segment where I do my Bible studies, what I go through and what I talk about. And I think that it's a really good way for me to kind of give my perspective about what I'm reading and to kind of help you guys and to help myself of becoming a teacher, a preacher, and for you guys to really understand more about the Bible. Now, I just pray that God allows me to speak with calmness. He doesn't allow me to create big words, but He allows me to speak to where people can understand. And I think that's God is really doing for me, especially with this platform. He allows me to speak to people, not in huge words, but in words of understanding and calmness. And I just hope that as we go over the book of James, chapter 2, that just one thing resonates with you. Whether you're an unbeliever, a follower, a Muslim, it doesn't matter who you are. I just hope that as you're watching this video, Jesus Christ can speak to you in some way, shape, or form. James chapter 2, verse 1. Grab your Bibles and follow along. My dear brothers and sisters, how can you claim to have faith in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ if He favors some people over others? I am a huge victim of this, right? I'm over others. And I know what you're thinking, okay, but I have friends, I have best friends, and that's not essentially what it's talking about, but I'll explain, right? In the Gospels, it talks about the parable of the Good Samaritan. And as we see, the Samaritan helps the person in need. And as don't treat that Samaritan with kindness, with integrity, with aid, but the Samaritan treats that man with kindness. He treats that man with aid. He sees him beaten up and he pays for the hotel. He pays for the food, offering a helping hand. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to the Gospels to refer. Basically, the parable of the Good Samaritan, one of the most famous parables, shows that a true neighbor is someone who helps a person in need. And I believe that's what this verse is talking about. How can you favor someone else over the other? How can you see someone in genuine struggle and not help that person? But you'll help a girl, you'll give her money just because she looks cute. Do you see what I'm saying? The priorities are off, but the thought is right? You want to help people, but you're putting them in a selective category based off of your own perspective, and that's completely wrong. Now, it'll make more sense when we go into verse 2. For example, suppose someone comes into your meeting dressed in fancy clothes and expensive jewelry, and another comes in who is poor and dressed in dirty clothes. If you give special attention and a good seat to the rich person, but you say to the poor one, you can't stand over there, or else sit on the floor, or you can stand over there, or else sit on the floor. Well, doesn't this discrimination show that your judgments are guided by evil motives? You see, in the kingdom of God, there is no discrimination. You cannot discriminate people based off of how they look, who they are, and what they do. That is completely wrong. How can God's love be in you if you are discriminating and holding some people to a different standard than someone else? It's completely wrong. And then he goes on to say, listen to me, dear brothers and sisters. Hasn't God chosen the poor in this world to be rich in faith? Aren't they the ones who will inherit the kingdom He promised to those who love Him? And so as we're reading that verse, we see that the poor are chosen in the kingdom. It says that it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. We see that pride makes us greedy. Or not that pride makes us greedy. We see that money makes us greedy. We see that money makes us prideful. Yet, we choose to favor people because they're so wealthy. Yet, they're the first people to turn us over when trouble hits. Do y'all notice that? And it goes on to talk about that in the verse. But you dishonor the poor. Isn't it the rich who oppress you and drag you into the court? Aren't they the ones who slander Jesus Christ's name, which is so noble, and the one that you bear? That's beautiful. And it is in the royal law to love your neighbor as yourself. But if we favor some people over others, we are guilty of breaking this law. I know personally for me, it's so hard for me to not favor people over others. Sometimes I'll favor some people more than others just because of the shoes that they wear, or the clothes that they have on, or because some people have nicer teeth. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, Luckies, this is so wrong. Why do you do this? Right? I know it's the wrong thing to do. And it's something that has been planted into our mind. It's something that we need to refer to the text about, because society has made us this way. Society has taught us to not talk to the homeless man, to not help the neighbor, right? We have learned all these different things that have caused us to build up walls that destroy us and allow us to discriminate other people. And we need to tear that down. It's just such an awful thing to see, that this society, our world, has caused us to discriminate other people. Now in James chapter 2, verse 10, it says, "For the person who keeps all of the laws except the one is as guilty as a person who's broken all of God's laws. For the same God who said you must not commit adultery also said you must not murder. So if you murder someone but do not commit adultery, you have still broken the law." And so now it shifts from you have broken the law because you are favoring some people over the others. You're not loving as you would love yourself and as your neighbor. You're not loving your neighbor as yourself. You're not showing and expressing that love. And because you're not doing that, you're breaking the law. But wait, that doesn't make you any better or worse than anyone else. Just because you break one law, you're also guilty of breaking every other law, right? And so this shows us that, okay, just because we have one issue, it doesn't make us better than other people, right? And I love how the book of James really reiterates the fact that we can look at ourselves and see that, okay, we struggle with one thing, but they struggle with lust and lying and greed and murder. But we only struggle with loving other people. I'm better than him. No, you're not. And that's a problem I have. I always think to myself, okay, I struggle with lying, lukewarm, a murderer, he hates people, right? But that's all wrong. That's the wrong way of thinking, right? When you learn and realize that, okay, I'm guilty of this, so I'm guilty of all. I'm no better than anyone else. Once you establish that true humility in Christ, you can actually grow, you can understand, and you can change your awful ways. And it says, so whatever you say or do, remember that you will be judged by the law that sets you free. There will be no mercy for those who have not shown mercy to others. But if you've been merciful, God will be merciful when he judges you. And so we see that because we are guilty of one law, that means we are guilty of it all. Someone who is guilty of one law is just as condemned as someone who is guilty of all the law. And so we can see that we all deserve that punishment. We can see that this law, which condemns us, cannot set us free because we are guilty by it. And it says, remember that you will be judged by the law that sets you free. And so we know that the law, right? And I'm not speaking of Jesus, but the law, the rules that we have, which tell us that we're guilty, cannot set us free. But this is speaking of a different law. This is speaking of Christ. Remember that you will be judged by the law that sets you free. Because Jesus did not come to abolish the law, he came to fulfill the law. And so we know that this law isn't talking about the regular law, but the law in this verse is referring to Jesus Christ, because it then goes on to say, there will be no mercy for those who have not shown mercy to others. And so we will be judged by Christ. We will be judged by the true law because he sets us free. But wait, if we are not merciful, we should not expect God to be merciful to us. If we have not been merciful, then God will not be merciful when he judges us, right? And so we know that this perfect law, which is Christ, will judge us. But he will not have any mercy on us if we do not have mercy on others. And so we have learned that loving others is a huge, huge, huge problem in the church. We have learned that just because we have one simple problem, it doesn't mean we're better than other people. No. We're all the same. We're all guilty of the law. And we know that the law, the true perfect law, Christ, will judge us. And if we're not merciful, if we do not ask for forgiveness, the same caliber that we ask for, the same caliber that we show, will be given back to us. And so now it comes to a point of where we have to learn to love and to be merciful with others. Now, this is my favorite part of James chapter 2. Now it shifts from loving others, now it shifts from a warning against prejudice to now faith without good works is dead. Ah, this is my favorite verse. What good is it, dear brothers, if you say you have faith, but you cannot show it by your works? Can this kind of faith please anyone? Suppose, oh, I love